I hate social media. I feel worse every time I'm on it. Like I'm less accomplished, having less fun, and like I'm less attractive than my entire peer group. But I still use social media. A lot. And admittingly, the thought of leaving social media brings about a fear of detachment from society. Who here can relate? Yeah, I see those nods. Have you seen those dramatic facial filters that change practically all of your facial features? Somebody call MTV because this is a great way to make a catfish case on your next Tinder profile, isn't it? But we don't stop there. Do you know if your face is approximately 1.618 times longer than it is wide? Do you know if the same ratio of 1.618 to 1 exists between the length of your eyes to the width of your mouth? Is your face perfectly symmetrical? Do you like how your face looks when you see it inverted? Because if you do not, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, but according to social media, you just simply cannot be attractive if you don't meet all of these permutations. You'd be shocked by how many people know the answer to these questions regarding their own faces. Numerous TikTok users have made videos of themselves trying to see if they meet these standards through the use of social media filters and lenses. And many of these videos end with them bursting into tears, crying. We are told that we must be chasing after a uniform beauty standard, and that if we don't meet this very, very narrow standard, we have no place in society. Nobody could ever see us as attractive due to us not fitting a standard that, quite frankly, nobody fits. I happen to live with a condition called body dysmorphic disorder, also commonly known as BDD, which can be best defined as the preoccupation with perceived flaws in one's own physical appearance that are either incredibly small in comparison to the emotional response they produce, or these flaws may simply not exist in the first place. I felt that my waistline looked gruesome, and that I could never wear a baggy top, as everyone at my school would start to suspect that I was pregnant. I was constantly comparing myself to others, seeing how I measured up, particularly via social media platforms like Instagram and Snapchat. I would spend long amounts of time getting ready for school in the morning, often being late for class. And when I was in class, I was preoccupied with concerns about my physical appearance and how I did not measure up to this impossible beauty standard. I felt that I was not beautiful enough, not attractive enough, and simply not good enough because of what social media told me I had to look like. Many of these social media platforms provide and promote facial filters. And while some of these filters are very cute, such as superimposing your dog's face onto your own, also known as a face swap with your dog, many of these filters are actually more focused on creating very specific facial features. When I was younger, I couldn't bring myself to post a photo on social media that actually truly looked like me. I would spend hours trying to get the right lighting, the right angle, and simply the right look. I was obsessed with trying to make myself look like what I defined as perfect, an image which I had never seen any real human actually look like. I would super zoom in on photos of myself, fixing my waist to what I thought was normal, adjusting the shape of my nose, the size of my eyes, how full my lips were, the smoothness of my skin, of course, the height of my eyebrows, the shape of my hips, legs, ankles, and while we're at it, feet. And how could I possibly forget my bust, my arms, my neckline and chin shape, and of course, my hair. We have seen through studies that there is a significant correlation between social media usage and measures of body dissatisfaction. In a study by Joyce Dye and his colleagues, this correlation was not only supported, But it was even found that there's a specific drive for thinness on these platforms, which only increases vulnerabilities to eating disorders. A study in 2023 by researchers Manchetti and their team went as far as to find a correlation between social media usage and symptoms of body dysmorphia. Many plastic surgeons and cosmetic nurses have noted the impact of social media, such as Snapchat and Instagram, leading to an increase in demands for plastic surgeries that resemble certain facial filters. And this phenomena is so common, we even have a name for it now. It's often referred to as Snapchat dysmorphia. Yet, we don't really seem to know why this may be the case beyond the correlations and the anecdotes. For the social media users in the room, how many pictures do you usually see on the For You page daily? We are flooded with several images and photos, videos in a very short amount of time, often presenting a very unrealistic self-presentation. Do you walk out of your house on any given day to be faced with tens of hundreds of photoshopped and AI-generated faces that present the perfect definition of unrealistic facial beauty, body image ideals just staring right at you? Well, I hope you don't. But we currently have an approximate 5.04 billion social media users in 2024, and this is just the average user experience. Do we know the true psychological and neurobiological impacts of such an environment? Absolutely not. But we can see the changes that are happening through our own eyes, and we can see them through the lens of what is happening to our younger populations as a result of social media. According to a study by researchers Ozemic and their team, photo editing behavior is associated with higher self-objectification and more physical appearance comparisons. The comparison of one's own physical appearance in a manner that treats appearance as an object and beauty as a universal. This very appearance comparison that is characteristic of many psychiatric disorders, like body image disturbances, such as BDD. Yet, through specific ratios, special rules, and the digitalization of the human face, we're attempting to homogenize the definition of beauty on a global scale to a standard that is practically unreachable by all of us. Well, this concept is definitely not new. I've been in the modeling industry for a few years now, specifically as a runway model. And let's face it, my body is far from being straight size, like a regular model. But I'm also not plus size. The fashion industry has historically tried to put models into very specific boxes. You have to be a certain height, weight, bone structure, and have particular features such as full lips, hollow cheekbones, and almond-shaped eyes. If you're a straight-size model, like most models you see, it is desired for you to have as narrow of a body shape as possible. But if you're a plus-size model, you ideally have a waist that is noticeably smaller than your hips, a very rare hourglass body type. This industry has historically tried to put models into restricted boxes, not for the purpose of shaping their models in any specific way, but rather to choose a very specific look that only a small percentage of the population can naturally obtain and create the perception of exclusivity, that you cannot merely be attractive and be associated with this exclusive brand on your own. Rather, you have to fit a very narrow definition of beauty. And if you don't fit this closed definition of beauty, well, that's really too bad for you. But maybe buying something from their brand would help. Great marketing strategy. As someone who fits neither of these boxes, I'm classified as a mid-size model. We do exist, but not in very high numbers. And even then, we are subject to excruciatingly narrow, closed-off standards of beauty to fit a homogenized look. While the modeling industry may be opening up its doors to create more diversity, the concept of manufactured exclusivity still finds its way to leach itself into our minds, particularly through social media. We have social media influencers encouraging 10-year-olds to put hyaluronic acid on their faces and dose themselves in anti-aging products. We have villainized the idea of graceful aging and have even gone as far to instill fear in today's children about the concept of aging, the concept of becoming unattractive according to a societal norm, and the concept of being rejected by society due to their physical appearance. You see, the biggest issue with narrow beauty ideals on social media platforms is not merely just their existence, but rather it's also the irrational consequences that we place on ourselves for not fitting these unattainable norms and the resulting anxieties from not fitting those norms. Now you may be thinking, well, Victoria, just quit social media, isn't it obvious? Well, hold on, it's not quite that simple either. Social media can be highly addictive, which only further attaches us to these negative feelings. A study published by the Journal of the American Medical Association back in 2019 discovered that teens who use social media for more than 3 hours per day, which, let's face it, that is a lot of teenagers, are at a significantly heightened risk for mental illnesses, particularly those involving internalized problems such as body dysmorphic disorder. Do you know that little thumbs up or heart button you can find underneath a post? Yeah, those harmless little things. Another study found that when teens viewed Instagram images that had many likes as opposed to those that had few likes, they experienced greater activity in neural regions implicated in reward processing, social cognition, imitation, and attention. And we are hearing the messages that researchers are sending us. Just recently, New York City has filled news headlines with its declaration of social media as a public health crisis hazard, stating that these platforms are fueling a mental health crisis among our youth. The city has gone as far to file lawsuits against social media platforms for contributing to this crisis. And we still don't have an answer as to why this is happening. But we know the correlation exists, and we cannot look away from it. With that being said, I don't think it's in our best interest to fully abandon social media. We live in a world where social media is just a fact of life. And it's not about the fact that it exists, but rather it's its purpose and its usage that matters. We can change the landscape of social media as individuals by expanding our mind beyond these constricted beauty norms and see them for what they truly are, a marketing strategy. We must recognize the beauty of what makes us look different from everyone else, what makes our appearance distinct, not uniform. It is our responsibility to break free from the pressures and norms of social media beauty standards that hold us back so that we can be strong enough to create change on these very platforms. I want you to think about why people use heavy filters in Photoshop. When I did, it wasn't coming from a place of trying to belittle those who saw my photos. Rather, it came from a place of hurt, a place of shame, and the feeling of simply not being good enough. I still post photos that I like of myself on social media, those that capture my story, particularly the most uplifting parts of my story, to share with young women, because I want to be the change in this very platform we live with. I don't think I could possibly capture my entire life on social media, as in all of the ups and downs. But I at least want to be the creator that I wish my younger self had came across. I would encourage you to use social media through the lens of not only how you are impacting your own self-view, but also considering how you're making others feel when you click that post button. And yes, I still do hate social media, but I can see a clear path to how we can change social media and help us redefine beauty to become more than any filter or body ideal trend, but rather to find the beauty in being unique, being diverse, and being beautifully human. To use social media to embrace the real beauty that lies within each of us. Thank you.